two-time breast cancer survivor, our next guest hopes to empower patients to be their own best advocates. Please welcome Eileen Filliben Edmonds to the studio. Eileen, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Tell me a little bit about your background and how you got into advocacy.
Absolutely. So I have had somewhat of a roller coaster ride with my own health journey. As you mentioned, I had breast cancer twice, but I also had other issues like irritable bowel syndrome, terrible migraines, chronic back and leg pain, which resulted in some very serious depression and ultimately PTSD. And through these experiences, I got to see the very best that healthcare has to offer and the very worst and everything in between. And I figure, as you know, we're one of the wealthiest nations in the world, and we simply can and must do better by our patients, especially those who suffer from chronic pain, which is really a silent epidemic that's gripping our country. And so I'm trying to shed awareness about the chronic pain epidemic and also give tools to both patients and to providers so that they can partner together for more collaborative and holistic outcomes.
Can you go into some of those tools that you offer?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the patient side, a couple kind of how-tos in being your own best self-advocate. So first and foremost, your health is in your hands. You are really the architect.
You may want to repeat that.
Oh, yes. Your health is absolutely in your hands. Nobody's going to do it for you. Mm-hmm. And it is absolutely your most important priority. And as you may understand yourself, as a working mom, our self-care often falls to the very bottom of the list.
We're taking care of everybody else.
That's exactly right. And sometimes it falls completely off the list, despite it being the most important thing you could possibly do, not just for yourself, but for your kiddos, your partners. Exactly. Second, really strive to be a partner with your provider, your doctors, your nurses. It really should be a collaboration. So yes, they're the medical experts, and you're the expert of your own body. And your body is talking to you constantly. So it's really important that you listen and that you partner with a provider who's going to listen to you. And
so many times, though, these days, you've got doctors that, I've got 15 minutes and I've got to get to the next patient.
It's terrible.
So yes. At that point, if you have one of those doctors, do you change doctors?
Absolutely. I respect people who enter the medical industry, and arguably this is the most crushingly difficult time. So you've got the financial pressures of a fatally flawed insurance industry, which is putting way too much pressure. Just like you said, they're watching their clocks. I've got 10 minutes, I've got 15 minutes. So that's really tough. Then you have malpractice insurance premiums going through the roof. And then you have the influx of private equity into healthcare. And the focus is much more on the bottom line than it is on patient outcomes and patient experience. So it's a tough time to be a doctor. So I highly respect them. And to answer your question, if that person's not working out for you, guess what? They are a highly paid medical consultant. Back to rule number one, you're in charge, right? It's your health. It's your priority. If you need to fire them, you need to fire them. And I think as women, we're often socialized to just listen to our doctors, kind of no matter what they say, but do your homework, do the research, come prepared with a list of questions, and ultimately follow your intuition. If your body's speaking to you in a way and your provider's not listening, or postponing tests or whatever the case may be, stand your ground and stand up for yourself. And if you need to switch providers, well, then so be it.
So many times, I think we go into doctor's appointments and we don't have that list of questions. Yes. How important is that?
Mission critical, right? Because just like you said, time pressure. So you have to make the most of their time. So I highly recommend coming in with a list of questions. And if it's a highly sensitive appointment, so for example, fresh diagnosis of cancer, certainly a really big deal. Not only do I bring a question, I bring a note taker. so that I can be fully present with the doctor, asking the questions, listening intently, and that note taker is there so that I can focus and hear what I need to hear. And then having those notes afterwards is invaluable, right? Because you are drinking, as a patient, you're learning a foreign language, and oftentimes under the worst of circumstances. So you just got a diagnosis of cancer, and all of a sudden there's all this jargon coming at you that you don't understand. So really important to have those questions, and in a highly sensitive situation, bring a trusted note taker who can also act as your sounding board after the fact.
And that's what you are going to need, because if you get that cancer diagnosis, that's the only thing you hear.
That's exactly
Everything
right.
else goes out the window.
Yes, exactly right.
So at what point did you start your company?
It's a relatively recent adventure. So, and this is the exciting news. So I've had just a really, really bumpy 15 years of health. So re-diagnosed with breast cancer. Then I had 10 major surgeries in 10 years, including a double mastectomy gone horribly wrong, failed reconstruction, 4 failed back surgeries, including a double fusion. So I've been a bit of a hot mess, to be honest. And over the past 2 years, I've been on a remarkable healing journey. And part of it really focused on my chronic pain, because of everything I've dealt with. That was the most demoralizing and debilitating. And a great example of that, so I've had a couple skin cancers very early, and relatively recently I had a biopsy done. And so I had a bandage on my hand. It was literally nothing. I mean, nothing, but people were like, "Are you okay? Is it okay?" And it was the outward expression of the bandage that was a signal, oh, something's wrong. Whereas I've been literally bedridden with chronic pain and with migraines, and that's utterly invisible to people who don't experience it or don't know somebody who's experienced it. And so that's part of my passion, to really bring it to the surface.
So your company, what does it do?
So 2 things. Right now, we're really focused on educating and inspiring. So 2 markets, the patient market. As I said, I have a special place in my heart for women patients, especially working mom patients, to make sure you're prioritizing your self-care and being a vocal and informed advocate. And then second, for providers. This is not an easy market for them at all. So helping them kind of reconnect with why they went into medicine in the first place. Because for so many, it's been a long, hard journey, first through school. Some of them now have a mountain of debt. Now they're on a stopwatch, meeting with patients for 10, 12, 15. We're at 18 minutes, gotta go. So a lot of them are burnt out. And so that's why you're seeing a lot of turnover among medical professionals.
Why was it so important for you to help the medical professionals in addition to the patients?
Great question. So for me, it's kind of the boulder in the middle of the pond. So I absolutely am passionate about helping patients. And if I can help providers reconnect with their why and give them some tools for really becoming that collaborative partner with their patients. So yes, you're the medical professional, and the patient is their own expert. They know what their body's telling them. They're listening to their symptoms. So collaborate with them, because the 2 of you together will be greater than the sum of the parts.
So how can folks get in touch with you if they want to find out more?
I'd love to check out our website at pxempower.com. PX is kind of the industry jargon for patient experience, and that's fundamentally what I'm all about. So pxempower.com or Eileen at pxempower.com. Would really love to hear from you.
So they can get in touch with you, whether medical professional or whether patient, it does not matter. You're there to help them both.
Absolutely, because those are really the 2 key forces within the medical industry right now. And they are the 2 key influences on the patient experience. And I don't think there's enough of a patient voice. So one of my goals with PX Power is to really create an authoritative platform for patient stories, both my own patient stories about what's worked well and where the wheels are utterly off the bus and we need to go back on ASAP, and also sharing other patient stories. Because no matter who you talk to, everybody's got a story about something that went well or didn't go so well.
And if we share, we learn.
That's exactly right.
Eileen, thanks so much for joining us
today.
today.
Thank you, Kelly. It's been a pleasure.
We really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
And we'll be right back.